Utah is now in session. The Honorable Ted Stewart presiding. God bless the United States and this honorable court.
Please be seated. I want to express a sincere welcome to all of you who are in attendance for this most important and memorable occasion today. I'd like to begin by introducing those judges that are on the bench, beginning with District Court Judge Mark Wallace, Senior District Court Judge Bruce Jenkins, Senior Judge David Sand, Senior Judge Gail Kimball, and Senior Circuit Court Judges Monroe McKay and Steve Anderson, Circuit Court Judge Scott Matheson. Down below we have Magistrate Judges Sam Alva, Bertha Wells, Paul Warner, our newest judge, Steve First, and Robert Braithwaite. I want to excuse District Court Judge Dee Benson, who is conducting a trial in Idaho, which is ironic, isn't it, Judge? You'll see it in a second. Senior Judge Tina Campbell and Circuit Court Judge Michael Murphy. Again, all of them are excused. I want to acknowledge our special guests, those who will be participating in this program today, Senators Hatch and Lee, and Elder Stephen Snow, who will be introduced shortly. In our jury box, we have a number of distinguished guests, including Congressman Jim Matheson. We have also with us District Court Judge Lynn Windmill of Idaho. Again, the irony was that he is here for this occasion. He is a friendly judge, and we very much appreciate him being here. Judge Benson is in Idaho conducting a trial to assist the judges in Idaho. We also have with us our bankruptcy judges, Bill Thurman, Kim Moser, Joel Marker. We have also representing the Utah Supreme Court, Justices Christine Durham and Tom Lee. We have former District Court Judge and now a member of the faculty at the University of Utah, Paul Cassell. We have representing the U.S. Attorney, Ms. Carly Christensen. Wait, Carly is not there. Oh, yes, she is. Federal Defender, is Kathy here? She is not. United States Marshal Jim Thompson. We have Scott Cameron, are you there? All right, you don't. Scott Cameron, Associate Dean at the UIU Law School, and we don't have anyone from the University of Utah. Paul here representing Dean Shoulders. Thank you very much. There are other judges and officers of the Utah State Bar in attendance. It's a special privilege for me to introduce the family of Judge Nuffer. I want you to know that these names were produced by Judge Nuffer. If there are any errors, I'm not accountable. I want to begin by introducing Judge Nuffer's wife, Lori. Had the opportunity to get to know her, and she is a very special woman, and Judge Nuffer recognizes that. We'll be beginning, I believe, with the oldest son, Peter, and his wife, Marissa, and their daughter, Mia, and son, Kaya. We then have daughter Chris with her husband, Jerome, and sons, Tierney and Jack. We have son, Paul, with his wife, Paige, and their son, David. We have a daughter, Lisa, with her husband, Matt. We have a daughter, Jessica, with her husband, James. Daughter, Laura, with her husband, Travis, and their son, Cohen. And son, Michael, with his fiancée, Becky. There are also many friends and associates of Judge Nuffer who are in attendance, including many from the court family. And perhaps at first, you notice these little cameras here. This is being broadcast by webcast to St. George and elsewhere around the country. Now, you may think that is odd unless you know Judge Nuffer. Judge Nuffer is recognized nationally as one of the experts and pioneers in the use of technology in the courtroom. It is not at all surprising to me that he has managed to arrange this as a webcast. We would like to then now proceed to the program, beginning with remarks from Senator Mike to be followed by Senior Senator Orrin Hatch. And I first want to express a most sincere thank you to these fine senators, not only for their vigorous support of the nomination of Judge Nuffer, but because of their invaluable support and service to the judiciary third branch of government, the judiciary, does not often get a kind response from those in Washington, D.C. It's a very difficult environment for the judiciary, and we have two very, very great friends with us here today. We're thankful for their presence and their participation. We will then be privileged to hear what might very well be a first in this courtroom, perhaps even in this building, and that is a piano solo. It will be performed by Judge Nuffer's wife, Lori. It is, as indicated on the program, Sonata Opus 16, composed by Nicola Vasinko, who is a Ukrainian composer. And as I remember the story, Lori discovered him on one of Judge Nuffer's and Lori's trips to the Ukraine. Ukraine is a second home to Judge Nuffer. He has spent much time through the years assisting the Ukraine in establishing a judiciary that works. Following Lori's presentation, you will be honored to hear from Stephen Snow, Elder Stephen Snow, a good friend of Judge Nuffer's, a former partner in the law firm of Snow and Nuffer, and currently a general authority in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's interesting to me that these two friends and former partners have taken such divergent paths in their life. And I suppose in the next life we'll find out which one took the better path. We'll proceed to that part of the program.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you today. You know, if I had seen an image of this just a few years ago, me standing in this courtroom, judges clad in black robes behind me with my back to them, I would have thought, oh my goodness, I'm committing malpractice, arguing the wrong way. So this is definitely a different posture for me to be in as a lawyer, facing away from the bench rather than toward the bench. But I'm pleased and honored to be here to speak, to commemorate the investiture of Judge Nuffer today. It was interesting, when I became a senator about a year and a half ago, one of the very first things I did, I believe it was before I even cast my first vote on the floor of the Senate, was to have a lengthy conversation with the White House counsel's office, in which I explained at length all the reasons why the President could not find a better person to occupy this seat than Judge David Nuffer. This is someone who understands, respects, and has in the past understood and respected his appropriate understanding of the necessarily limited role of the federal judiciary. Now, the fact that the judge's role is to be there and to interpret the law. Since I've become a senator, I've realized many more of the reasons just why that interpretation of the law can often be so difficult. When I was a law clerk in this very courtroom for Judge Benson, I would sometimes, in preparing bench memoranda for the judge, look at a particular provision of federal law and report back to Judge Benson either in writing or in person or otherwise. I don't know how Congress could have possibly had a coherent, intelligible principle that it was trying to put into this thing, because the statute itself is unintelligible. We generally try to avoid those, but I've learned since being there that it does sometimes happen. I try to weed those out whenever I can. I want to make your job as easy as it can possibly be. I know how difficult it is already in many respects. But we're very fortunate in this state to have such a deep bench, such a qualified bench, such a talented one. And you're joining a bench that will in turn benefit greatly from your service here, Judge Nuffer. And I thank you for that. Thank you for your willingness to serve. Whenever I walk into this courtroom, I'm reminded of the statue just behind me. Most of you probably can't see it. That's a statue of Tillman Johnson, a federal judge who served in the 1920s and 30s here in Utah. He had an interesting relationship to my family in that my maternal grandfather went to him, kind of on a whim, on someone else's recommendation during the Great Depression, saying, I've heard you know people in the Treasury Department. I hear the Treasury Department's looking to hire someone who speaks French in the U.S. Embassy in France. Can you help me get a job? Judge Johnson was kind enough to at least refer him to somebody else so that he could end up finding a job. He found a job during the Great Depression, which was a rare and difficult thing to achieve back then. But it demonstrates the fact that that judge, while this had nothing to do with his judicial duties, referring my grandfather as the right person to talk to in the Treasury Department, It's a good witness of the fact that he was always concerned about helping those who stood in need of help. Now, your role as a judge, of course, is different than that. The way you help them is to find the right answer under the law, and you've exhibited through your service as a federal magistrate judge your respect for and understanding, your willingness to follow that principle. And I wish you the best of luck. It's been an honor to recommend you strongly to the White House. And it's a privilege to all of Utah's 3 million residents to have you serving in this capacity. So thank you very much, and may God bless you.
Well, I'm really honored to be here today. I'm happy to have. I think Steve Snow, you're the first young authority I've seen speaking in one of these installations. I can tell you right now which one took the better path. You notice I didn't say either one. Now, it's a good day when you find the right person for the right job, and that's what we celebrate today. Because Judge David Nuffer is the right person to serve on the U.S. District Court here in Utah. Most judicial nominees do not know what to expect in the confirmation process. When Judge Nuffer had his hearing before the Judiciary Committee last fall, I told him it would actually be a good thing if no one paid much attention to him. He would have an entire career of people hanging on his every word in the courtroom. But in a confirmation hearing, I have to say the opposite is a good sign. The reason that the confirmation process went so smoothly for Judge Nuffer is that he has earned such wide respect throughout the legal community here in Utah, and really across the country. Over 24 years, he practiced both criminal presentation and defense, and tried more than 150 cases to verdict. Now that's impressive for any lawyer to be able to do that. He has served the legal community as president of the Utah State Bar, on committees and task forces of the Utah Supreme Court, and as chairman of the Utah Judicial Conduct Commission. For more than a decade, Judge Nuffer has been an adjunct professor at BYU, his law school alma mater. His service to the law even extends beyond our borders. Judge Nuffer has lectured to judges, lawyers, and law students in countries as far afield as Brazil, Egypt, and Ukraine, and serves on the board of the Levitt Institute for International Development. And most recently, he has served for 16 years as a part or full-time U.S. magistrate judge. It is no surprise that the American Bar Association unanimously gave him the highest rating it gives while qualified. And they had better have done that, because a lot of us would have really raised Cain had they not, and they did. And that's not easy in this day and age. This well-rounded picture of dedication, service, and excellence really impressed me. When I went for a candidate to succeed Judge Dale Kimball, who himself is one of the finest judges in the land, I talked to lawyers and leaders in the legal community and all parties throughout Utah, as I always do. The response was strong and unanimous. Judge Nuffer is a lawyer and a judge of the highest caliber. And he's a man of the highest personal integrity and character. How lucky we are to have him here in Utah as one of our district court judges. Those are the qualities that matter most to me. But some of you may know, I chair the United States Senate High-Tech Task Force. So I deal with Silicon Valley all the time, and Utah has its own Silicon Valley. We're competing very, very well with the rest of the high-tech people throughout the world. And I'm very proud of what we do here in Utah. I therefore took particular notice of Judge Nuffer's love of technology and the promise that that technology holds for the legal system. He has said that technology is a leveler that, quote, puts us all in touch, reduces the distance from the courthouse, and leverages our abilities, unquote. I could not agree more. Judge Nuffer will help to make the law and the court system more accessible to all of our citizens. In addition to being a little confusing to nominees, the judicial process can be a bit confrontational. Much of that is actually about important issues, including the proper role of federal judges in our system of government. And sometimes it's very, very contentious on the Judiciary Committee, and in the last number of years, there would be an exception for it not to be. Now, all I can say is judges play an important role, but they are only part of our system of government. In fact, in some ways, it would be better if our judges had less to do. That would mean that people were not committing crimes, suing each other, or otherwise involved in conflict. They don't call our judicial system adversarial for nothing, after all. But since our judicial system is necessary, I am so glad that it is the best in the world, and that we have judges like David Nuffer. Let me just say this. I've had 36 years of working with federal judges all over this country. Not just district judges, but Circuit Court of Appeals judges, where a lot of cases are heard that will never get to the Supreme Court, but also Supreme Court justices as well, and nominees as well. And I have to say that in my experience, all of that experience, I give this third branch of government the greatest tribute. Because I think they've done more to save the Constitution and this country than the other two. All three are important. The other two are much more adversarial, although the judiciary can be adversarial as well. And sometimes I really wonder, where in the world did they get such stupid ideas? On the other hand, if you look at the judiciary in this country, it has more to do with our freedoms, with our constitutional rights, than I think the other two combined. And we have been particularly fortunate with the judges that we've had on our district court here in Utah, and also our circuit judges that serve on the 10th Circuit as well. I have to say that I love the judiciary. We take it very seriously back there. And I have to say that there is no district court in the country that has better judges than what we have right here, and all of these fine people that serve us. We're fortunate to live in a state that has such great people, such knowledgeable people. Let me just say, since our judicial system is necessary, I am so glad that it is the best in the world, and that we have people like Judge David Nuffer, who are willing to spend their lifetime really in a cloister, away from most of the people, doing what really is right for our country. I want Judge Nuffer to congratulate you on beginning your service in the U.S. District Court. One thing I'm sure of, that is that you will serve with distinction and integrity. And I really commend you. And I'm so happy that we supported you. I just apologize for taking so long. We love and appreciate what you've done in the past, and we will love and appreciate what you do in the future for our state, for our country, for individual citizens, where the court means almost everything. God bless you all. God bless this honorable court, and all who serve thereon. I'm just so grateful to be part of this system. I'm so grateful to be here today. Thanks so much. Thank you.
pleased for this opportunity to say a few words on this special day about my good friend, Judge David Nuffer. To say Dave and I go back a few years would be a bit of an understatement. When I first became friends with the judge, he had hair, a beard, and drove a purple AMC Pacer. If you've forgotten, that was that American Motors vehicle that looked like a cross between a Ford Pinto and a space capsule. The circular rear window, that little car was so large that few have survived over the years because the interior has been cooked by the sun decades ago. In those days, the judge, his wonderful wife Lori, and his entire family could fit in that little Pacer. Dave, it's been a good ride. Judge Nuffer and I began our friendship 35 years ago while clerking for a small law firm in St. George, Utah. A couple of years later, during a discussion regarding associate salaries, the idea for the law firm of Stone and Nuffer was born. In January of 1979, we opened our doors. Dave had graduated from BYU Law School 8 months earlier, and I had graduated the year before. We obviously had much more nerve than we had good sense. Dave shaved his beard, and he and I started wearing ties to the office to make up for our obvious youth and inexperience. By the way, this tie-wearing tradition has really gotten out of hand. Judge Nuffer and I were partners for 22 years. Our first task was to remodel an old adobe house, which became our law office. At first, we sat patiently waiting for the telephone to ring. I continued my appointment as a deputy county prosecutor and working in the evenings in the private practice, which was allowed at that time. And Dave put in 15-hour days to make it all work. As our practice grew, so did our opportunities. We learned early, if you do good work and charge a reasonable fee, you will stay busy. Now, having grown up in St. George, I had a bit of an initial advantage in attracting clients. One disadvantage, however, was that many of these new clients were my relatives. And so the family discount became a joke around the office. There is a saying in a small town practice that one half of the town loves you and the other half hates you. That is, until you sue the other half, and then they all hate you. With all my relatives and all of this going on, Judge Nuffer had some great experience early on with conflict checks. Dave understood very early the importance of giving back to the community and to his profession. He served on various boards and was even president of the local St. George City Chamber of Commerce. He was appointed, as has been stated, to a number of state committees where he served with distinction. And he dedicated hundreds, if not thousands, of hours to the local and state bar associations, including a term as president of the Utah Bar Association. He particularly has had an interest in technology. I guess opposites do attract, for I am technologically challenged, and he dragged me into the 80s and 90s, as he is now dragging the federal court into the 21st century. I was called to full-time church service in 2001, and a year later, Dave was appointed as a full-time magistrate, federal magistrate here in Salt Lake City. We left a law firm then with 25 other attorneys between our offices in St. George, Salt Lake, and Southern Nevada. Now, law partnerships are unique relationships. Some, if not many here today, have enjoyed such ties. And while they do not rise to the level of a marriage, they do come close. If you don't count sleeping, during my 2 decades of practice, I clearly spent more time with Judge Nuffer and my other partners than I did in the company of my wife, Phyllis. In my case, I was particularly blessed. I not only had a wonderful law partner in David Nuffer, I had and continue to have a best friend. During those 22 years, I never remember an argument or serious disagreement, and never did either one of us raise our voices at one another in anger. In my professional and personal life, and in my ecclesiastical service, I have had the privilege of meeting many good people. Please know I have never met a better person than David Nuffer. He is also the smartest man I bright people can be difficult, even high maintenance, but not David Nuffer. He is kind, considerate, and as I've so often observed through the years, he is patient. He had to be my law partner. These qualities make him particularly well qualified to preside in a federal courtroom. And while I would have been perfectly content to ride into the sunset with David Nuffer as my partner, I'm actually quite pleased it has worked out this way. Because you see, it would have been selfish of me to go to work every day with the judge. Now members of the judiciary, the bar, the staff, and citizens of this great district will continue to be the beneficiaries of the qualities of this good man. I would just like to say in closing thanks today. Thank you for your friendship, your support, and your kindness and patience through the years. I congratulate you on this wonderful and well-deserved honor and wish you the very best in this great assignment. As you have always done, enjoy the ride.
It will now be my privilege to administer the oath of office to Judge Nuffer. Lori, if you would please join us, after which she will be appropriately rolled by Lori, and then we will hear a response from Judge Nuffer. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, David Nuffer, do solemnly swear
I, David Nuffer, do solemnly swear
that I will administer justice without respect to persons,
that I will administer justice without respect to persons,
and give equal right to the poor and to the rich,
and give equal right to the poor and to the rich,
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform
all the duties incumbent upon me
all the duties incumbent upon me
as a United States District Court Judge,
as the United States District Court Judge,
according to the best of my abilities,
according to the best of my abilities,
under the Constitution and the laws of the United States,
under the Constitution and the laws of the United States,
and that I will support and defend
and that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely,
that I take this obligation freely,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties of the office upon which I am about to enter.
the duties of the office upon which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God. The robing was the most difficult part. We didn't rehearse that. I want to thank all those who participated today and who made this event possible. And that goes to the back of the program. I felt that there was no way I could acknowledge everyone properly if I didn't give it the thought that it deserved. But that's why I wrote this down. I also want to thank those who did the technical part of this event. I had so much time to think about this that I kept adding things. The piano was the first one, the webcam was the next, and if it had been another 6 months, who knows what would have happened today. I do feel, after all the things I've heard today, that the next thing that we heard from a speaker should be telling us who the pallbearers would be and what cemetery we should drive to for the interment. The overwhelmingly positive tone of what's been heard today should remind us that usually in this courtroom, we're engaged in a quest for truth. And that we put people under oath and we subject them to cross-examination. You can see what happens when we disregard those important formalities. I remarked to a lawyer about the very nice introductions that Senator Lee and Senator Hatch gave me at the Senate Judiciary Committee hearing, and the very positive remarks that lawyers were making back in the fall of last year as they heard about my nomination. I told a friend, it's a little surreal to hear all these positive things, and he very wisely said, enjoy it while it lasts. I had 2 trials in the last 2 weeks, and I'm sure that another point of view is emerging among some lawyers and parties. During the time this nomination process was going on, Steve also gave a speech at the BYU Law School about practice of law in a small town. And he spoke at length about the positive virtues of his partner Dave. And people who knew me were asking me, who is his other partner named Dave? The whole session today reminds me of Judge Wells' drug court sessions and her mental health court sessions, where she and her entire team bring all their resources to bear to help their defendants in those programs find jobs and build self-confidence. Today, as I enter on this new job, my self-esteem has been appropriately boosted. And I'm not the only magistrate judge who has benefited from her work. Through the years, Paul Warner worked with Brooke at the U.S. Attorney's Office, and more recently here in the court. His previously insecure personality has blossomed. And we all know that Judge Alba has just found a new job. Thanks, Brooke, from all of us. The nomination of a judge is a unique effort of the 3 branches of government. President Obama nominated me in June last year, and the commission he signed March 23rd of this year will be on display at the reception following this proceeding in room 205. The Senate vote on March 22nd was recorded on this tally sheet that a friend recently sent me. Now, my first thought when I pulled this out was I should frame it, because it's the only test where I got 96 out of a possible 100. But then I saw the votes were recorded in pencil, and I thought, I could ask Senator Lee to change his vote. You have a pencil. I'm not sure that would be legal, but Senator Lee and Senator Hatch would sign the roll sheet before I frame it. I would appreciate that. Because of this event today, and because of all our children arriving in town, which is really quite remarkable, we did not make the annual Memorial Day pilgrimage to Richfield, Utah, where my mother lives. The day there begins with a breakfast raising funds for a veterans memorial at the Richfield Cemetery, and continues with a devotional conducted by local veterans. As we sit in lawn chairs under tall leafy trees, with a breeze blowing, hundreds of flags in that cemetery, we look out over the red and white hills to the snow-capped mountains behind. There are, in most rural Utah cemeteries, more of those flags commemorating veterans than in most cemeteries. We hear speeches, the rifle salutes, and we think of the dedication of those who settled this country and that community. We did have a similarly beautiful day here yesterday in Salt Lake City, a beautiful May day with family and friends. We are all very fortunate to be here. Over the past 5 years, I have visited in countries, or with lawyers from countries, where it is unlawful to criticize the President of the Republic. Websites there are regularly suspended without notice. Journalists are not secure. I've been in countries or worked with lawyers from countries where opponents of current presidents are imprisoned, and officials from the last administration are subject to trial. Countries where all phone conversations are monitored and even recorded. Countries where 15-year-old boys with automatic weapons serve as a religious compliance patrol. Countries where women are subject to abuse, rape, and death without remedy. Countries where police are complicit in crimes and retaliate against any who complain about that complicity. In his book, 7 Tipping Points That Changed the World, Chief Judge Ted Stewart reminded us all that, quote, freedom and democracy are extraordinarily rare events in human history. Indeed, only a tiny fraction of humans have been given the opportunity of living in a free land. He points out 5 major aspects of our freedoms which are combined in our American system of government. Self-government, the right of the people to govern themselves, and the right of the people to choose the type of government that they choose, to form the type of government they choose. Fundamental rights. All people are born with certain fundamental rights, including the right to life and personal liberty, the right to keep one's property and the fruits of one's labor, the right to freedom of speech, religion, thought, freedom of the press, freedom to move. 3, all are created equal. A belief in the equality of all at birth, including the belief that a major role of government is to assure that everyone, regardless of status, is treated equally by the law, and that everyone has an equal opportunity to succeed or fail. 4, commitment to justice, the condition where each person is rendered that to which they are entitled, regardless of how rich or powerful they are, or what class or race they may belong to. 5, commitment to the rule of law. All people, president or common citizen, are subject to the same law. No man or woman can ignore the rightful laws of the land without being punished. Contrast this with the description of a feature of Russian government under the Tsar. The Russian language word is "произвол." Произвол can be variously described as arbitrariness, despotism, tyranny, or mercy. The beneficence or wrath of the Tsar could come at any moment without warning or just cause, and citizens were absolutely subject to his mercy. Unlike most Western societies that consider arbitrariness and despotism to be failings of legal systems, in Russia, произвол was accepted as a natural part of life and sometimes even considered a virtue. Nicholas I's Minister of the Interior, Count Beckendorf, asserted, laws are written for subordinates, not for the authorities. In that view, laws are designed to protect and implement the interests of the state, not to secure individual liberty. We are each the beneficiaries of a remarkable and unique governmental system. America has melded many nationalities and governmental theories into a leading and exemplary world power. Everyone in this room has benefited from this, and everyone here is a trustee of this blessing as well. We enjoy and hold these privileges for the benefit of others. We who work in this court, in whatever capacity, we who have governmental positions, we who are citizens, have, by virtue of our privilege to be here, a duty to preserve and enhance these freedoms. This government does not work without the participation of citizens. We must vote. We must be politically active, unless, of course, we're on the bench. We must serve on juries. We must respond in times of emergency and disaster, and we must defend our country. We who work in the courts and justice system act as trustees by doing more than our job. We should be focused on doing the job, the larger task of peacefully resolving disputes, of standing as the third and independent branch of government, of guaranteeing the Constitution has effect. We do not say, it is not my job. Just as Senator Lee spoke about Judge Tillman, he did more, he did the job. We need to do what needs to be done even beyond our daily tasks. We can work for the just, speedy, and inexpensive resolution of every civil case. We finished a jury trial, I guess a week ago today, or no, tomorrow in this courtroom. The attorneys worked together very well in that trial. They shared the exhibits that were on CD when one computer didn't work. They were working for the bigger good, not for the job, their own job, but for the bigger task. We can work for the just determination of every criminal proceeding with simplicity of procedure, fairness in administration, eliminating unjustifiable expense and delay. The task at hand is much bigger than any of the immediate tasks we individually have. I pledge to you that I will do my best to do my part and hope we as trustees of our great judicial system and system of government will act as trustees of these larger responsibilities and privileges. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to express appreciation to all of you who have attended here today. In particular, I want to thank Senator Lee and Senator Hatch, Elder Snow, and more than anyone, Lori, for that magnificent number. I've been thinking of many ways where I can use that in the courtroom. So if it weren't quite an expense to bring this beautiful piano into the courtroom, you may find yourself in a predicament. I particularly want to thank my friend David for having lived his life and developing his talents in such a way that he has earned this unique honor to be added to the federal judiciary, something which I am very, very honored and privileged to be able to serve in as well. As was mentioned, there will be a reception in room 205, and all of you are invited to participate in that. And with that, we will be at an end. Mark.
The audience, please rise. Special session of the United States District